But to have you as a choir director is a total thrill, really, a delight. And it was exactly the thing that I needed to be in your choir. So thank you, Wilma.
Here's somebody.
This is really children. I know. Last Sunday, as I was driving home with 3 children in my car, which is not very often anymore, I said, "Okay, you guys, what can I say about Wilma and when you were in choir?" My kids were in choir since they were 3 years old, and went through all of Wilma's choir and so forth. And my Anna, who is my middle child, and she lives up to that as a middle child, she says, well, she never let me sit by Ashley. I said, well, why was that so hard? Well, this is the only time all of us from all these schools get together and we have a lot to talk about what went on, and Mrs. Huffman never let us talk. I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably true. And Aaron, my Aaron, was probably one of the 2 boys who continued to sing only, and he says, yeah, she always told us to sing louder. And now we know why they didn't sing louder. Thanks, Paul. So I'll double check that, what Paul said. So that was good. But we enjoyed small children's choir for years and years and years. And many of you out there had children or grandchildren in those choirs. And you led them on a legacy of the love for music. And I know Sydney would agree to that, as well as the Locken kids and my kids and Patty's kids and all of us. So thank you.
Colin.
And Colin, of course. He
just about me.
He just sorry, Colin. I didn't forget about you. But so and that was a huge thing. And so thank you for doing that. And on a personal note, being there and being part of this choir again was the hugest thing, and Wilma led us for that. Over 20 years, so I appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Elaine has something to say, but I wonder, is there anybody else before you leave? Okay, we got some. Mike, come on up.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Well, I haven't been around Grace for a few years now.
Eat it. Oh, have to turn it up.
And yet you're still listening to Wilma.
Yeah, you want to put it high up on it.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you. Wilma and I worked together for 17 years doing the children's choirs, and I just know it was a pleasure to work with her, and there were times that things weren't always so good with the parents or with this or with that, and Wilma would come and talk to me, and I'd say, Wilma, it's okay. Things will work out. We'll just do it, you know, or whatever. And then you could see the redness going down from her face. But no, Wilma was great with all the kids, and she was a pleasure to work with. And I look back now at all the kids that we taught who are now out on their own and having families of their own, and think what a blessing it was to those children to have had Wilma as their director. And what a blessing to us too to have those children and all the families that brought their children. It was just great. But you know, I think of Brianna Kunkel, who's now having a baby, and all the Kunkel kids and everybody. And all the, yes, Patty, I was telling her son Eric used to climb up on the radiator and pretend he was a tiger. So there were lots of things going on, but it was great, Wilma. Thank you.
I was like, can she name all the kids' choirs? Because there were a lot of them. Yeah.
There was Alleluia Children's Choir,
cherubs.
And the cherubs.
And the cherubs, yeah,
And the
that's,
grace notes.
yes, and the grace notes, and then you started the
Sound of Spirit.
Sound of Spirit, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was,
That was it. I think there was a high school group before then, but they kind of had disbanded.
yeah,
That was
Yeah.
before Will.
yeah. And there was celebration choir, but you were, I mean, I sang in that, but that was a,
Yeah, I think you might know Mike Malone. Mike Malone has been, was never here a long time, but she came back today to help us celebrate. Diane, we're also a long time member here, who now is at Trinity.
She comes here and prays. She has to pray here. This is the place to pray.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see you all again, and congratulations, Wilma. My first memories of Wilma were at the same time of my first memories of Val Knobloch, because they worked together. And sometimes we'd come in to choir practice or to get ready for a concert, and we'd say, well, to each other, well, how are we doing this? And then we'd get brave and say to Val, well, how are we doing this? And he'd say, well, we're doing it this way. And then we'd start doing it that way, and then Wilma would go, oh, no, we're doing it this way. And so we might be standing there with our eyes crossed because we didn't know how we were doing it, but it all worked out. So I have to say that I have learned over all the years that I sang in the choirs here, I learned so much from all of our music directors, but especially with Val and Wilma, that they brought a real professionalism that really made us a wonderful choir. I really think that we were a wonderful choir. And since we've gone to another church from here, we have sung in other choirs. And I kind of look around and I think, well, that's not the way Wilma would do it. And maybe we should do it the way Wilma did it because it would be better. But one does not say that. So I just think there were high expectations. We worked to those expectations, and that made us really good. So thanks, Wilma, and congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Rick Long from First Lutheran,
Oh,
but
I really need my wine.
he's been a faithful member of our choir, even though he's at First. He's been here every Sunday with us, every Wednesday.
I'm a guest worker. My involvement with Wilma goes back to the days, if some of you guys remember Praise in the Park, when the choirs would combine, and excuse me, more frequently the joint Thanksgiving Eve services. And Robbie and I share something because sometimes Robbie and I were the only two First Lutheran choir members that came over here to sing with the Grace Lutheran Choir. And I'd always get sat in the back row next to Colin and his father. And in those days, Colin was pretty quiet. He didn't say very much. I could never draw him out. He would just kind of sit there. And
Then he grew up.
right. Well, what happened one evening, or one of these Thanksgiving Eve services, Wilma had the sopranos singing, and I sang with the sopranos in falsetto. And Colin's sitting there shaking his head, "That is just wrong." So I think that's the first words he ever said to me. And then when Grace Lutheran ELCA went over to First Lutheran for a couple of years, Robbie and I were the first two choir members that approached Wilma and asked if you'd mind if we sang with the choir, because her reputation preceded her. And at one point we had just about 36 singers between the two church choirs. I mean, because we'd lost our choir at First Lutheran, they still haven't found it.
It's a big building.
It's a big building. And we had pretty much given up the idea of having a choir again, and then along came Grace Lutheran ELCA and the Amazing Grace collaboration, and that worked out really well because it gave a lot of choir members, and we still had a fair number, we just didn't have all 4 parts. like this choir did, and it gave a bunch of us at first an opportunity to sing in a real choir with a real director. And here we are, the last time that Wilma's directing the choir, Robbie and I are here. So it's kind of cool. Do you want me to say this first? I just had a joke.
Go ahead, share it, it's your joke.
Okay, you're gonna do the others?
Yeah, well, there's always more jokes.
Okay. Well, you've all heard these light bulb jokes. Do you know how many choir directors it takes to change a light bulb? No one knows because nobody ever watches the director. I'll give this.
I was actually supposed to be up first, but I was late. But who wears a watch and why? Yeah. So as long as we're on the light bulb thing, how many sopranos does it take to change a light bulb? Anybody know? Yeah, just one. It's not always successful because the soprano assumes she puts her hand up and the world will turn around her.
I like it.
How many tenors does it take to change a light bulb? It's a trick question. If they're going to put things up that high, nobody can reach them. How many bases does it take to change a light bulb? None. They just rather stumble around in the dark until they bump into something usable. And altos? Well, nobody pays attention or remembers them anyway. So.
Anybody else? Last chance?
Barb?
Yep.
Here's something that if you didn't get to sit next to John, you probably never saw in action. John's the only person I ever sat next to in a choir that was texting people while Wilma was talking. He had this inside his music, and he was